Welcome to France 2022, the campaign. This is our weekly show covering the presidential campaign. Hello, Tom, and hello, Angela. Hi. Welcome to everyone. So let's begin with the recap of the week with Jolie Sitbon.
Valérie Pécresse was eager for a successful rally that would unify ranks. In recent days, several party officials joined the enemy, Team Macron.
C'est dur puisque Macron, il essaie de débaucher chez nous.
S'il y en a qui veulent partir, qu'ils y aillent, on les retiendra pas.
Former budget minister Eric Zemmour was the main loss of the week. Pécresse maintained her strategy, leaning further to the hard right. She used a controversial expression implying the French could be completely replaced by foreigners.
Pas de fatalité, ni au grand déclassement, ni au grand remplacement.
But for nationalist right-wing candidate Eric Zemmour, Pécresse is an empty shell.
Avec Valérie Pécresse, vous n'aurez pas Zemmour. Vous n'aurez même pas une moitié de Zemmour.
Zemmour continued poaching Le Pen supporters, winning a key figure this time, Stéphane Ravier, the National Rally's only senator. Le Pen, who had lashed out at previous defectors, moved on, presenting her defense program with an eye on the Ukrainian crisis and France's role in NATO.
Moi, je souhaite que l'on sorte du commandement intégré de l'OTAN et non de l'OTAN.
Leftist candidate Jean-Luc Mélenchon went further, saying France should leave NATO altogether.
Je propose que la France ne soit plus le wagon de l'OTAN. La France sera un pays non aligné.
Communist candidate Fabien Roussel and Green candidate Yannick Jadot laid out measures for the environment.
Nous voulons construire 200 000 logements sociaux par an et réhabiliter 700 000 logements par an pour tenir nos engagements climatiques.
Il y a des millions et des millions de Françaises et de Français qui sont contraints de prendre l'automobile. Et la question n'est pas de les culpabiliser. La question, c'est de leur offrir des solutions.
While the Greens attempted to show they're not only about punitive measures, Anne Hidalgo, the socialist, pleaded for more accountability.
Moi, je me bats et je veux me battre pour que, à l'échelle internationale, il y ait un tribunal international qui soit compétent pour les crimes d'écocide.
That's all for this week. Until we meet again.
Okay, well, let's take a look and see how everyone is doing in the polls. A survey was published by Ipsos on Saturday. Mark, what did it show?
Well, in the first round, this poll, like others, which have been fairly consistent, shows that the incumbent, who has not yet declared himself, Emmanuel Macron, is well ahead. There is a kind of threesome fighting for the second seat for the second round on the right and the far right. They're very, very close. Valérie Pécresse, Marine Le Pen and Eric Zemmour are within 1%. And clearly, so this is a very, very tight race. The others are far behind. The only one approaching 10% is the far left leader, Jean-Luc Mélenchon. All the other ones, and especially the traditional left, are in the doldrums.
Okay, so that's the first round. What would happen in a second round, according to that poll?
According to that poll, Emmanuel Macron would win if he is facing Valérie Pécresse. He would win by 54 versus 46%. And if it is Marine Le Pen, it would be 57-43%, so a more comfortable margin if he faces Marine Le Pen. Again, this has been consistent, but again, we're still waiting to see when and if Emmanuel Macron will throw his hat into the ring.
Okay, but the Conservative hopeful Valérie Pécresse really struggling, isn't she, in this bid to become Macron's main rival?
Yes, and this is why she was really, really counting on her first rally this past weekend in Paris to make that difference. And watching very carefully was our own Angela Diffley. So, Angela, a very simple question. This was really a big test for Valérie Pécresse. Did she pass the test?
No, not the consensus is no. It's pretty much the only thing everyone is talking about today in regards to her performance. There were expectations that she would help people get to know who she is a little better. She's not that well known. She is the president of the Paris region. She has been a minister a couple of times, but she isn't, although people recognize her face, people don't know that much about her as a person. And of course, Emmanuel Macron had this incredible backstory. He had a teenage romance with his school teacher. It was very easy for people to become fascinated by him as a personality. And she really needs to engage the public with who she is. And so there was an expectation that she might do that in yesterday's performance. And she didn't. Whilst Macron has his own story, she comes across very much as someone who was the pretty, clever girl in the class. And she struggles to get people to identify with her. She did say something at the end of the speech: I've been given a lot in life, and I was brought up to think that if you're given a lot, you give a lot back, which was very good. But it was right at the end of a speech, which was littered with reheated slogans from other people.
Sounds like she should have hit them hard with that at the beginning. Is there a sense that with 2 months to go, she could recover?
Anything could happen. She is in a tricky position anyway, because the right is a very crowded field. We have Emmanuel Macron pretty much centre-right now. On the nationalist right, Le Pen, Zemmour. She's operating in this very narrow space. She has tried to tack to the right, but that rings very hollow, because she actually left her own party because she felt it was too right-wing, and has now come back and tried to be more right-wing. So that rings very hollow. As to can she recover from the speech, yes, lots of people won't have watched. Margaret Thatcher was a notoriously bad speaker, messed up the jokes that were written for her, and Marine Le Pen has apparently recovered from a very, very bad debate against Macron the last time around.
OK, well, thanks for that, Angela. Let's have a look and see how the campaign is seen from abroad. And this week we're going to head to Germany to talk about what would ordinarily be a rather secondary issue in a presidential election. I'm talking about inheritance tax. Well, for several weeks, the Elysée hopefuls have been firing off proposals to try to reform the system, which is widely seen as being unfair. But across the Rhine River, inheritance taxes are much lower. France 24's Nick Spicer tells us more.
Inheritance tax is at the heart of the presidential campaign in France. And as is often the case, Germany is held up as an example. So let's take a look inside this Berlin-based company to understand why.
They've built industrial motors here for 3 generations. The company was founded by Kurt Menzel's father in 1927.
When I took over the company, we started to make a bigger machine, but this is really our standard product.
When Kurt gave the company to his son, Mathis, there was no inheritance tax to pay. In Germany, depending on the case, people who inherit a family firm can benefit from tax exemptions of up to 100% if the company is worth less than 26 million euros. In return, though, they must promise to keep all the employees on the payroll for at least 7 years.
Der Vorteil ist ganz klar, dass der Staat die Zielsetzung hat, Familienunternehmen zu erhalten. Dass die Erbschaftssteuer dafür.
And if the inheritance taxes are so low, it's in the interest of everyone who works here.
The tax system here takes special care of the biggest motor of the German economy. Family firms create 58% of the country's jobs, but family wealth is also well protected. In France, a parent can give 100,000 euros tax-free to a child. In Germany, the amount is 4 times higher.
For children, it's really different, because for each child in Germany, each parent can give 400,000 euros tax-free. So each child can receive 800,000 euros from the parents. In France, it's only 200,000, so a big difference.
The inheritance tax often comes up for debate in Germany, as is the case now in France, but no government here has made any big changes.
Well, after traveling abroad, we're going to travel inside France, because in the lead up to the presidential vote, we are keen to take the pulse of the country. Our journalists Julie Dungeloff and Florence Villeminot have been crisscrossing France, meeting voters to understand their daily lives, their concerns, and, as you'll see, their ideas for the future of the country. This week, we're heading to Western France, to Normandy, to meet with a cattle breeder named Véronique Fournier.
Là. Rimbaud, viens là. Gossip. Ah, le voilà.
I got my first cows when I was 24. Today I have a herd of about 40 animals. When I come to work, even if it's 2 o'clock in the morning and conditions are hard, it really doesn't feel like I'm working. I wake up between 4:30 and 5 in the morning. I start working with the cattle around 5:30 or 6. What I like the most about my job are the animals, the relationship I have with them. When things work out, when a calf is born and the little animal makes it, they're like members of my family. During the past 20 years, everything has been turned upside down. When I started 38 years ago, there were lots of small farms here, small dairy producers, and all that's over. Financially, it's very difficult. There are sacrifices to be made, that's for sure. Sometimes you really think you're not going to make it. You can't see the end of the tunnel. Luckily, I have funding from Brussels. We have to keep the Common Agricultural Policy aid so that we can stay independent from other countries to produce our food. It's essential. My priority would be to help small farmers stay independent and not be absorbed by the massive food processing plants which are starving us by driving our prices down. Also, it's important to respect the environment and animals, to leave future generations a clean planet.
Now, this year, there is a new face in politics. I'm talking about the former journalist Eric Zemmour, who is mounting the biggest challenge yet to Marine Le Pen on the far right. Well, he can count on the backing of a movement of young supporters who are called Generation Z. Well, France 24's Clovis Casselli has been following some of them on social networks and on the campaign trail. Here's his report.
A group picture before they disperse and put up posters across Paris. Most refuse to show their face on camera, as they don't want to be confronted at work or university. During the team briefing, a neighbor discreetly steals a batch of posters, and an egg is thrown from a building. Eric Zemmour is a polarizing figure.
We're often insulted, like, you dirty whites, you fascists, you Nazis. We've also been hit before.
Zemmour's youth movement, Generation Z, has over 10,000 members. Some come from banned far-right groups. Others used to support Marine Le Pen or right-wing parties. Marie left a small sovereignist movement convinced that Zemmour will save France.
We need to show that we are present on TV, but also in rallies and on the streets. Show that we're everywhere.
Zemmour wants the end of all immigration and the return of so-called traditional values. He set up his campaign headquarters close to the Champs-Élysées in one of the most expensive areas of France. Marie is working on a new video. First, they rehearse. Then, they record. This time the theme is genital mutilation. Generation Z are making full use of the tools they know best.
There is a whole communication strategy that involves social networks. We need to be seen and present everywhere. We have very active teams to counter attacks on the internet. Our teams send out hundreds of messages a day.
Former journalist Zemmour is often called sexist and reactionary. It infuriates them.
Let's quote Eric Zemmour himself, because that's why we are here. He says that the youth of today miss a France they have never known. I think that's so true. Nowadays, when you say you are proud to be French, you can be accused of being racist, fascist. It's like you can't even dare to say that you are proud to be French anymore.
They reject the term of far right. They describe themselves as patriots protecting French identity against Islam.
so we're seeing some youth behind the far right. It's true with Eric Zemmour. It's also true with Marine Le Pen, and that's fairly new, Angela.
Yes, it is. I suppose young people always rebel against older people, and many of those people's parents will be May 68ers who are firmly on the left of the political spectrum. They want to rebel, and they're looking for a different kind of France, maybe.
Yes, that's true. I mean, we often think that they go green or they go red, but it seems they're going brown this year. And but most prefer to stay home, and that's been a problem for politicians who have tried to fish for their votes for a long time. And the campaign of Emmanuel Macron, although he's not declared himself yet, has decided to use Valentine's Day to try to lure those youth voters to the ballot box.
Well, thank you very much indeed. That's it for this second edition of France 2022, the campaign. Thank you very much indeed to you, Mark, and thanks to you as well, Angela.
Thank you.
Thank you.